Hi, and welcome to Entrepreneur Masterclass. I'm your host, Lea Woodford, and with me today is an amazing mindset expert, Vered Kogan. Vered, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, Vered, mindset. We hear so much about mindset. Can we unpack that a little bit?
Absolutely. So mindset really means a set of beliefs. And we all have many different mindsets about different things, but it really is a belief that we have about something, which essentially is a feeling of absolute certainty that something is true, right? So if I have a mindset about myself, let's say as a coach, as a trainer, as a parent, as a leader, it encompasses the beliefs that I have around that. Am I a good leader and not a good leader? Am I a healthy person and unhealthy? Am I athletic? Am I creative? We have many different beliefs, and some that serve us and some that don't. And all of our beliefs stem from earlier experiences, and most of them, the core beliefs, from very early childhood experiences. So as a coach, I help people to release some of those old attachments, and oftentimes those beliefs started from events that happened early childhood, like 0 to 6, sometimes even during birth or in the womb.
Wow.
Sometimes it's even intergenerational trauma. So, a time something happened, we didn't have the resources as little kiddos, and we formed certain beliefs like I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I can't trust people, things like that. And then if we don't release that, then that gets carried over throughout our life, and we project that on, and then we see, events and situations in our life that kind of essentially, give us evidence of that, but it's not actually true.
So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Always.
So Vered, how do we really change that? And I don't know anybody who goes through childhood unscathed. I mean, we all have childhood trauma. I mean, how can we as parents even, help our children learn and, get the right mindset? What can we do?
Absolutely. So there are two questions there. So first of all, what can we do for ourselves? And then the second one is as a parent, or I would extend that to also as a leader, as an influencer.
Right.
And so to answer the first question, we can absolutely release those old attachments. And this is especially important during times of change, because if we, let's say, go through a career transition or any type of transition in our life, and we're not releasing the baggage, if you will, we're just essentially carrying it and dropping it off in the new job, the new business, the new relationship, body, whatever that might be. And that's why people repeat patterns again and again and again. And so in order to release that, what we need to do is to connect with our unconscious mind. We cannot do it through our conscious mind alone. And of course, there are many practitioners that can help to do that. I have some programs that can help people to do that. And the idea here is that we can connect with our unconscious mind, and our conscious mind will tell us when those events were stored, because our unconscious mind remembers every experience we've ever had and the meaning we gave to that experience. And then once we help those sweet little parts of ours, let's say 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old part, to feel safe, to help those little ones, it's just like little kids are frozen in time with those extreme beliefs and extreme emotions that are stored in the body, and physical sensations we carried in the body. When we connect with those parts and with love, with activating the heart, we can help them to see the truth. So one of the things that I do in my keynotes and presentations is I take people through a process called play. This is why it's called the mindset game, to play. And play is an acronym, PLAY. So let's say I'm in a situation, in a work meeting, or a situation with my family, and I'm beginning to feel some distress, right? Some unpleasant emotion or unpleasant sensation in the body, like tension or anything like that. Then what I can do is just pause, first of all, kind of go inward, label what emotions am I feeling? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling betrayed? Am I feeling resentment, sadness? What is it that I'm feeling? And then that connects with those unconscious parts of ours. And then that's the P and the L, right? Pause, label. And then the A is for activate the heart. We actually do need to activate the heart, because we need to change the signal that goes from the head, from the heart up to the head, in order to shift these old unconscious baselines. And so we activate the heart. We give love, and there are techniques that I teach for doing that. Techniques like havening techniques, which is a psychosensory modality of touch, EFT tapping, which is another modality for releasing the trauma from the body. There are different breathing techniques, heart math techniques. And then the Y in play stands for yield, because when we shift the energy, we can shift the perception, because a different heart rate variability signal goes up to our head brain. And now we're in a whole brain state, and we can perceive the situation completely differently. We can see things more objectively that we couldn't see before. So we're essentially yielding these attachments from the past, and we're able to make better decisions. And so as we go through change, as we go through transitions, it's very important to play, to pause, label, activate the heart, to yield those attachments, because our suffering is not coming because of the situations in our life. It is because of the stories that we tell ourselves. And those stories are stemmed often in very early experiences that most of us are not conscious of.
You know, you make an incredible point. I mean, from what I understand, what I've read is we stay in the trauma state until we address it. If we are traumatized at 8 years old, we're still dealing with that little 8-year-old. Is that correct?
Yes. So what makes a trauma, of course, there's what we would call big T trauma, which is things that our life was actually in danger. And then there's small T traumas, which, it could be as little as I was at the grocery store and my mom didn't give me the candy store that I wanted. And I believed I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of, having things that I want, for example. But every trauma, what makes a trauma is that it was an unexpected event. And it was something that in our perception was distressing, that there was some, potential loss that was going to be happening, right? There was some stress or danger in our perception, not necessarily that was the case. In our perception, that was the case. And that we didn't have agency. We didn't have control over what was going on, that we didn't have the resources that I kind of train people to utilize to be able to release this. And then the biggest thing that makes a trauma is feeling alone. Feeling alone. And that is what takes us to the second part of the question that you asked. What can we do as leaders, as parents, as caregivers, as influencers, is to help people feel, to know that they are not alone. And that's really important during times of grief, any kind of loss, not just of a person, let's say, or a pet, a loss of an identity, right? Like, for example, when I lost my job, when I was working in consulting years ago because of a merger, I had essentially lost my identity. I mean, here I was, this, smart, successful, all that stuff, right? And then the next day, I don't have a job. Immense shame and disappointment and anger, right? All the emotions that are absolutely typical during a transition, during a loss. And it was because of the coach that I had. Was paired with a coach for 6 months. It was an outplacement program that allowed me that support for 6 months, that allowed me to feel not alone, to know that no matter what, somebody's got my back.
That's powerful.
It is, and that is why I'm a coach today, because of that experience.
So let me talk about this. Right now, there's so much transition and so much trauma in the world. I mean, how can we protect ourselves and our families, our companies from all the, turning on the news, it's trauma, one trauma after another. What can we do to insulate ourselves and protect ourselves from all these mental attacks that are happening right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lea. So what's happening in our world is because of the discord that's happening in our world. There isn't harmony. And so our outer world is essentially a mirror reflection of our inner world. Carl Jung said, perception is projection. What I perceive, those stories that we talked about, those old mindsets, we project them out onto the world. And so in order to resolve, if you will, things outside of us, the only thing that we can control truly is our own thoughts, emotions, and behavior. So what we want to do is to go inward, again, to play that game that I talked about, right? To go inward, because all it means is that there's some parts of myself that are essentially exiled or kind of disconnected. And as I do the work to pause, to label how I feel, in our busy life, right? To pause the emails, to pause all the stuff, and just take a moment to label how I feel, how intense it is from 0 to 10, let's say on 10 being most intense, maybe where is it in my body? And then I activate the heart in as simple as just doing some heart-focused breathing, breathing in and out of the heart slowly and deeply, and activating a regenerative positive feeling. That in and of itself changes the signal that goes up to my head brain. I'm able to create more harmony in my body. All of my parts are working together in synchronization. And when that happens, then I have inner harmony. And then I'm able to see the truth outside of me. I'm no longer in that moment attached to all of the, bad that is going on, if you will. She did that, he did that, it's her fault, it's his fault. We're able to find a sense of inner ease. And then we can see the truth. And in doing so, we're more empowered because we can make decisions that are from that higher level of consciousness than from the level of consciousness that created the discord in our world.
Absolutely. One of the biggest challenges I see with a lot of people is they're worried about the what ifs. We spend so much time, what if this happens? What if that happens? Most of the time, the what ifs never happen. They never happen. Vered, how can we really protect ourselves, from those thoughts that just go on and on, and we just focus on things that don't serve us? How can we pull ourselves out of that mindset?
Yeah. So first of all, it's the mindset about pulling ourselves out of the mindset. Because if I say I need to pull myself out of that mindset, I'm rejecting those feelings, let's say, of anxiety, of what's going to happen, right? All those holographic images of all the bad stuff that could happen, right? All the what ifs, as you said. So number one, it's the shift that I'm not actually wanting to move away from that, if you will. I want to be curious about it. I want to be accepting of it, because those thoughts, those what ifs are protective mechanisms. It's our unconscious mind's job of saying, hey, I need to protect you so you will be safe. It may seem like self-sabotage, but it's really a self-protection mechanism. And when we give those parts that are oftentimes kiddos, and they're little ones, they may protect us. They may say, well, what if you'll get hurt? You shouldn't be, let's say, a speaker or a coach, or follow your dreams because you might get hurt. Or what if you're rejected or you don't belong anymore? But those parts are little ones, and they don't have the resources that we as adults do. But yet we're operating out of those parts because it's like we're frozen in time. And when we're in distress, we reactivate that. We're essentially running a circuit in our brain. So let's say if I'm angry about something that I see on the news, I'm not actually angry about what I see in the news. What's happening neurologically is I'm firing off a circuit of something that happened a long time ago. And this is why in the work that I do with clients and in the workshops that I do, we help people to release that from the body. We can release all the anger that we've ever felt in 8 to 10 minutes. Using techniques like timeline therapy, going to the very root, the very first time that somebody felt that, let's say during birth or in the womb. Again, we do this by connecting with the unconscious mind, getting the positive resources and learnings and letting that go. So now, as a parent, as a leader, what's most important? Number one is to make sure that people don't feel alone, that we have their back. We can be curious about them, ask questions. What's important to you about this? What can I do to support you? Things like that. And in addition to that, we want to be curious, right? Asking them questions that will help them to get to know themselves and their own parts, right? Like, for example, I'm sensing that you're feeling angry about this, right? Maybe that person wasn't even conscious of the fact that they're angry, right? But just allowing that energy to move, to express is what's important, because when we express it and we're able to get those positive learnings, then we're able to truly release it and get completion. Because any transition is really starts from an ending. And if we just go from the ending, right, like the current state, that let's say the job that we're transitioning from or something like that, or the business, and we go to the future state, right, here I am going to a new job, right, or new relationship, or I lose the 20 pounds, but I haven't actually gone through a transition of all the psychological realignments, the mindset shifts, releasing that energy from the body. Again, I'm going to find myself in the new job, new business, new relationship, new body, and then it's going to reenact the same pattern again and again and again. And then that's when people are like, man, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just get this? Why, and what they don't understand is that it has nothing to do with that. It's these old protective mechanisms.
Wow.
So what we want is just a whole lot of self-love, love, and acceptance of all the parts of us. And then those parts can begin to soften. If I say, I don't want to feel angry, or that person's bad, or whatever, that's just shadow parts of ourselves. And we just want to give those parts love because they're distressed, they're perplexed, they're confused, they're little, and they just need love and protection.
So Vered, you just inspired me to ask you a question. What about maybe dealing with family members that are traumatic to us or trigger trauma in us? How can we protect ourselves from, maybe they mean well,
Yes,
but sometimes they don't say it in a way that is helpful. Do you know what I mean?
of course.
Sometimes there are worse critics, right?
Yes.
How do you protect yourself from somebody you love?
So 2 parts to that answer. So there is the external stuff, right? The mechanisms of that change, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then there's the inner stuff, the energetics of it. So let's talk about the mechanics for a moment. So of course, wherever possible, if there's somebody in our life that, that is not serving us, if you will, right? There are things that we can do to potentially, right, separate from that if needed to. If somebody's very toxic and we have tried to express to them, how they make us feel and what we'd like to be different, and they're still not changing. Again, if we can disconnect, but sometimes we can't. It could be a parent, it could be a sibling, a child, it could be a spouse. And so in a situation like that, the first thing that we want to do is to go inward. Lea, our world is a projection of our own inner world. And what that means is that if I'm perceiving somebody to be toxic, more than likely that is a shadow, a deeply unconscious shadow part of myself. Yeah. So if I'm angry with them, there's probably some part of me, because everything is a dichotomy. So if I, let's say, consider myself to be a good person, right? For me to know I'm a good person, I need to know what a bad is.
Right.
Yes? Right? Light and dark. I know that there's light in this beautiful studio because I know what darkness is. I know that I'm full because I know what hunger is. Yes? And so if I'm of the light, if you will, there has to be some part of me, some shadow part of me that is playing the role of being the opposite of that.
Wow.
And so that person may be playing that. And what that means is that it is an opportunity to, first of all, go inward. Because if I can't change somebody else, I can change my projection of somebody else. I can change how I respond to that. I can be free of the attachment, so I can be with them. They can do their own thing, their toxic thing, say the thing. It'll just roll off my back because I have inner harmony.
Oh, that's amazing. So, Vered, companies bring you in. Can we talk about what companies bring you in to do? Tell me what you do for companies, because let's face it, there's a lot of toxicity right now in the workplace. And tell me how you help companies resolve that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is we help companies with 3 things, one of which is mindset. And so we do keynotes and trainings on helping people to understand how they created their unconscious patterns. We talk about the biology, the science of that. All of our trainings are anchored in science and evidence-based tools and techniques. And then we take them through exercises to actually uncover some of those unconscious mindsets that may be limiting them from a particular intention that they have. We teach them how to write goals in a way that will collaborate with those deeper parts, the unconscious mind. And once they identify a limiting belief, we take them through a process. It's a process called mind shift to actually release that limiting belief from the body.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one thing. Second thing is resilience. We train on resilience. We train on tools like heart math, EFT tapping, havening, so that people can be self-empowered. Because during times of change, there is a dip. There is an emotional dip. And that impacts our productivity, our ability to focus, our ability to connect with others. Yes, our ability to be creative. Yes. And so what we train on is really helping people to understand, again, the physiology of state, the difference between coherence and incoherence. We actually demonstrate that where we have a volunteer and we, play with them a little bit, get them incoherent. And then we use the tools like the quick coherence technique and other tools. And they see in real time their HRV, their heart rate variability pattern becoming nice and smooth and them getting coherent. It's really incredible. And it happens happens in moments. And when people know what to do, they are empowered. We are not victims anymore to that person in our family, the person in our company, the client, the economy, the politician, whatever it might be, because we can shift our own state. So that is the second. So mindset, resilience. And the third is about how to influence change. So we also train leaders. What do you do to support yourself and others during times of change? So we use tools like ProSci, the change management methodology, like the ADCOR model. I'm an NLP trainer as well, neurolinguistic programming. So we train on tools to help people at an unconscious level feel safe during times of change so that they would be willing to accept the suggestions that can help them to feel better and to be better.
That was absolutely amazing. Oh, I've learned so much in this segment. Now, Vera, before we go, we're running out of time. Can you tell us about your podcast and how people can listen to it?
Thank you for asking that. So the podcast is called The Mindset Game, themindsetgame.com. And this is a podcast that we bring experts on topics like mindset, resilience, and change management, how to influence change. And they give us all kinds of expert advice, lots of wonderful stories, nuggets, tips. I also do some of the podcast episodes myself. As an expert, I'm highly trained in over a dozen modalities for rapid transformational change. And so I bring some of that in, and it's one of those podcasts that with every single episodes, you have something to walk away with that you can do right away.
I love it.
Sometimes our guests guide us through techniques and guided processes, and sometimes, again, questions, things that they can apply right away.
That is wonderful. Will you come back to the show?
I would be delighted to. You are such a love. Thank you so much for the love that you bring into our world, for asking these heartfelt questions on behalf of, I'm sure, everybody listening who's experienced some of those. And just a lot of gratitude for this opportunity today.
This was great. I'm excited to have you back.
Thank you.
This has been Lea Woodford with Entrepreneur Masterclass. Thanks for watching.